Hello, judges. My name is Bilal QAZI, and this is my extemporaneous speech on whether the Supreme Court is facing a current legitimacy crisis. My speech will begin in 3, 2, 1. Just earlier this week, Elon Musk went on Twitter, once again raving about how justice in our system is broken, saying that, quote, the actions of a Wisconsin judge to block President Trump's executive order banning birthright citizenship were downright unconstitutional and a clear violation of judicial procedure. And although he doesn't quite understand how executive orders work, it does raise a big question among our voter base and among the American public today. And that is whether justice, as it currently stands, is being maintained in the status quo, especially by the Supreme Court. So let's look at the legitimacy of the Supreme Court through declining public trust, the ethical violations on the court, and the clear partisanship of the court in the past 2 years. But first, let's look at the current court as it stands in the public eye. According to a Pew Research poll in 2024, 24% of Democrats and 63% of Republicans think that the court still holds a legitimate claim to being the true arbiter of justice of the nation. This means that less than half of a majority of Democrats and just shy of a majority of Republicans think that the court can still do its job, which is a clear indicator that something is wrong. For the numbers to be this unbalanced suggests some kind of political situation. And political situation indeed. If we look at 2022, ever since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, there's been a 56% growth in the amount of Democrats who lost trust in the Supreme Court. According to the Allegheny Public Policy Index, if we look at the growth in the judicial system since 2022, it has been on a strictly negative trend, with over 20 points on the Justice System Index dropping for the United States Supreme Court. The same level that Syria and Myanmar dropped when they faced a civil war is currently what has happened to our nation in the past 2 years. But next, let's look at the ethical violations clear and apparent on not only the courts of today, but of the courts of history. Recent history, that is, because the Judiciary Committee report in January of 2025 found that justices on the court have accounted for over $4.75 million of, for lack of a better word, charitable donations or bribes since 1991, with the most infamous and recent example being Justice Clarence Thomas. Justice Clarence Thomas is known for loving his vacation trips to the Bahamas. So much so that he accepted over 30 different private jet charters in the past 10 years. These charters coming from both sides of the political spectrum, but more often than not, from top law firms who want them to write a brief that favors their side more on a difficult Supreme Court case. Furthermore, Justice Clarence Thomas has become especially infamous for allowing a prominent conservative think tank to pay for his daughter's school tuition. And if we look at another justice on the Republican side, Samuel Alito, who has gone on record saying in a leaked phone call to AP News, quote, "The left and right are irreconcilable. It was inevitable that politics should find its way into justice, and now we can only see it through." And if we look at Justice Sotomayor, a justice from the era of Obama's administration on the Democratic side, we can see that both sides are falling for this hypocrisy, as she has gone on record forcing universities to buy her books in bulk before they can even host her as a speaker, which is a clear violation of the Judiciary Act and of the Ethical Acting of Justices Act. And if you look at Justice Gorsuch, who is also another justice from the past for the Democratic side, we can see that she has accumulated over $2 million in real estate from top law firms during 2020 because those law firms helped influence her opinion as a justice on the court and as a prominent judicial thinker. But next, let's look at the court itself as it stands as a partisan body, because the court has undoubtedly become extremely political. If we look at the court's makeup as it stands, there is a 6-3 Republican to Democratic majority on the court. This is an overwhelming majority for the Republicans and one of the least majorities for the Democrats that they've seen in over 30 years. having just 3 justices on the court on one side is incredibly bad because of something called the Rule of 4. The Rule of 4 is an informal Senate procedure, which means that if 4 justices do not agree to see a court case, then it gets thrown out and does not get referred to the Supreme Court. This means that since there are 3 Democratic justices, if they cannot convince at least 1 Republican justice every single time to even hear their case, then it will get thrown out before it can even be debated. But much less so when it actually does get debated, because a 6-3 majority means that there's almost never going to be a Democratic opinion coming out in the next 20 or so years, because justices serve for life. And thanks to President Trump's 3 new Republican justice appointees, this means that we are going to have 3 permanent Republican positions on the justice system that have skewed the political spectrum so far to the right that 64% of Democrats now say that the system is flawed and that the political system and the judicial system have intertwined into one. This is a tripling from August 2020, when they said only 20% or so of Democrats said the same thing, but now over 64% say it, meaning that there's been a clear political bias present in the court that has caused public opinion to shift so much. But next, let's look at the inaction of the court to discipline itself. The Judicial Conference Committee has the job of disciplining the court and ensuring that if justices do not maintain good behavior, then they are removed from the court and are discharged of their duties. However, the Justice Conference Committee hasn't discharged anyone from the court in 15 years, and their reports on the court itself are increasingly apparently political. With the Justice Committee also being a Republican majority, they're increasingly turning a blind eye to one side and regarding the other side with increased scrutiny. So yes, the Supreme Court is facing a legitimacy crisis thanks to over-politicalization as it concerns to a prominent Republican majority, ethical complications and the lack of discipline by which they administer onto themselves for these ethical complications, and declining public trust in the court, meaning that their power is running unchecked and the people are getting fed up. Thank you.